I am Representative Alan Chesser, Nash County. Last time I started a war by saying it was the best county in North Carolina, and my other speakers kept coming up and trying to rebuttal me, so I'll stay away from that this time, even though it's true. Thank you guys for coming out. Most of you guys have figured out why we're here today. This is a long overdue reform, something that the General Assembly's been working on for the better part of a decade now, and I think we finally have a consensus bill. Judging by this sheet of paper here of all the supporters that are on it, there's 82 organizations across the state that support this, and I think, yeah, even Blue Cross is on there. So I just wanted to make sure you were included, man. I appreciate you guys. So it's widely supported. We've been vetting this particular draft of legislation for roughly 16 months now, off and on. And so this is not something that we just came up with overnight. It is something that a lot of blood, sweat, tears, and just, I'll just say, love has been poured into. Our goal here is to overcome some of the political obstacles that we have faced in the past and actually move the needle for the children who need it the most, and that is the children that are in foster care. What you will notice about this bill is we do not take a punitive approach. We're not here to try to punish bad parents. There's a time and place for that, and it's not in this bill. What we are focused on in this bill are the life outcomes for children. So we are focused on creating an environment that is conducive to permanency and reunification when possible. And that is our focus. And if you read through the legislation, I think you'll see it there pretty plainly. Other than that, I don't think we're going to go through it section by section. I will hold if you guys have any questions. I'll be available at the end. I would like to turn the floor over to my great supporters and co-sponsors that are behind me, first of which is Donnie Loftus.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Donnie Loftus, representative for Gaston County District 109. This bill has been something that Representative Chesser and I personally have been working on for the last couple of years, of how to impact innocent children that get hung up in a foster care system that they can't really move forward with their life. And with 100 counties doing it 100 different ways, it makes it very difficult to have standardization of service, standardization of care, standardization of mental health across North Carolina. Hopefully this bill starts the process of getting us all on the same page and doing the scalable things that are really working for children, who is the most important part of the future in North Carolina. And that includes pre-COVID, we had quite a number of foster parents. Post-COVID, that number has dropped significantly. The number of children, however, has remained steadily high, and that continues to be a concern. We know it is cost efficient and it is good to do reunification with bio parents. However, that is not going to be the case in every situation. And for me personally, I want adoptions fast and free. I want that parent who wants to adopt that child not to have to jump through hoops for 5 years, and $50,000 later for the infant they wanted to adopt has now had 5 to 7 foster homes. We can do better than this. We have to do better than this. It's in North Carolina's best interest that we work on this together and make sure that the future of North Carolina has a plan in place for those innocent children that need someone in their life to care, to love them, provide a safe environment. And there'll be other opportunities for us to expand that service as we go forward with faith-based organizations within the community. They also must play a significant role in taking the lead in helping to do that within each of our communities. I'm honored to be a part of working on this bill, and I look forward to expanding the opportunities to impact an innocent child's life every single day. Thank you.
Dr. Reeder's not going to speak today because he doesn't have a voice. You guys watched session yesterday, and there's a reason everybody else is smiling.
You could have wrote note cards.
But he's been with us the entire way. Dr. Reeder and I came in as freshmen together, and one of the very first bills we sat down to talk about was the Loving Homes Act last session, which was, I guess, in conjunction with this, one of the largest single opportunities the state's had to expand access to foster homes, and now we're working on the process by which to create, we'll say, a fostering environment of care within the DSS system while children are in care, whether that's in a hospital or in their placement. We talk all the time. It's important to remember that children are 25% of our general population, but 100% of our future, and that is why this is so important. Want to make sure people understand that this is not an agenda item that is driven by one party or the other. This was a true bipartisan effort in this. No one party had their say at the table, and we just all came with the common goal, common purpose of helping children have better life outcomes. And no one worked harder to that goal or to that end than Representative Vernetta Alston.
Good morning. I'm Vernetta Alston. I represent House District 29. And Representative Chester, you're too kind. I'm really grateful to join this effort alongside my colleagues and really I know dozens of advocates and providers and public servants who lended their expertise to help craft this bill over so many months. This bill gives North Carolina a really great opportunity to move closer to having an efficient, predictable, and consistent process centered around safety and permanency for all of our children who make some sort of contact with the foster care system. It strengthens many critical procedures and provides support for the really urgent decision-making that happens in some of the most vulnerable moments in a young person's life. And it does these things while creating fairer, and clearer opportunities for the children and the caretakers to be heard, and to be supported, and to, again, achieve permanency. This bill, I really appreciate being a part of this bill because it offers the kind of certainty and stability that really every child, every person, and every family deserves. So I know a lot of collaboration and hard work has gone into this effort to get the bill to this point, and I really look forward to working with everyone here to see this bill become law. So thank you again for allowing me to join you.
All right, now we've got some people from, I hate to refer to it as the industry. Maybe there's got to be a better word out there than that, but not currently in my brain. So Lisa Cawley from DHHS, if you would come up on the side. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Representative Chester. We are incredibly grateful for you and your partners in this legislation. And your commitment to strengthening North Carolina's child welfare system will have a lasting impact on children and families. And I'm going to run through some of the highlights of this, of what it will mean for North Carolina. And I might have been in the industry 30 years. Let's just say that. Over the past...
appropriate then. Just blessed it.
Think you're gonna like it?
Over the past decade, and especially since Ryland's Law, North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services has worked to transform our child welfare system. We have made much progress. Launching the regional support model, having regional directors that go out and coach and work with county departments of social services, developing PATH NC, which will roll out soon, which is the statewide child welfare information system, so all counties can see cases when families move from county to county. Investing the $80 million, thank you again to the General Assembly support, in services for children with complex behavioral health needs, so children live where they receive treatment, not in DSS offices or in emergency departments. Also implementing the Child and Family Specialty Plan, ensuring that children in our system can access consistent medical and behavioral health care even when they are between counties. Now, these reforms were necessary to move the system forward, but to truly protect children and strengthen families, we have more work to do. This bill is a big step in moving us forward. First and foremost, it creates a new level of accountability of the child welfare system. Right now, when a social worker receives a report, and they must make a critical decision. Is this child safe at home? That is the decision that they make in their work. Today, that decision rests solely with the local DSS office without an external review process. Families don't often understand these complex decisions, and when the state has no authority to intervene, even when there are concerns. This bill changes that. For the first time, citizens will have a process to review case decisions, and the state will have the authority to intervene when needed. supporting county decisions, or correcting those decisions to help improve overall practice. This is a vital step in ensuring that our county-administered, state-supervised system works for the children and families of North Carolina. The other place to Representative Loftus' concerns with this new accountability, our second biggest opportunity for system reform is improving pathways to permanency for children in DSS custody. When a child enters foster care, our top priority is finding a safe, permanent, stable placement, whether through reunification, kinship care, adoption, or guardianship. The shorter the pathway for permanency, the better the outcome for children. The challenge, these pathways depend on multiple systems, courts, child welfare, behavioral health, and others working seamlessly together. That's your child serving system. Too often, delays in one system create barriers in another. This bill brings these systems together around the shared goal of reducing delays and securing permanency to move children out of DSS custody as safely and quickly as possible. For the courts, the bill allows parents who voluntarily relinquish rights to maintain appropriate contact, something they desperately want, with those that adopt their children, and strengthening family connections and shortening pathways to adoption. For child welfare, the bill requires social workers to focus on one single primary plan and do that plan well, clarifying goals for the family and streamlining the path to permanency. In the medical system, the bill facilitates further engagement with hospitals to prevent children with complex behavioral needs from remaining in emergency departments longer than necessary, creating better pathways to the right treatment. These are just a few examples of how this bill is a major step forward in our ongoing efforts to strengthen child welfare and build a system that works for North Carolina. We look forward to working with the General Assembly and our partners across the state to turn these reforms into reality so that every child who comes in contact with our system has the best possible chance at a safe, stable, and promising future. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Next up, we will have Marcella Middleton from SASO. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Marcella Middleton, and as he mentioned, I'm here with SASO. You can be a part of SASO if you've experienced foster care or any type of substitute care. SASO stands for Strong Abled Youth Speaking Out, and it really was an organization that supported me in being where I am today. Now I am the executive director of my own national organization that works to end and prevent homelessness for young people across our nation. And I went through the foster care system myself. And going through the foster care system myself meant that I was one of those young people that was vulnerable and became a part of a system that, you know, I had no control over. And so when you're in a system like that and you're out of your home situation and you're out of your home life, you need to be in a system that actually takes care of you. And so this bill and the reformation of this bill is going to really support young people in being in a system that acts as their parents. I know when I was in foster care, there were opportunities that I had and resources that I had available to me that actually helped me feel like, okay, you know, even though I'm not with my family, I feel like I'm being taken care of by a parent, and that parent was just DSS, the Department of Social Services. And so the importance of this bill, of course, as mentioned, would elevate the quality of legal representation within DSS agencies for, of course, better outcomes for young people, and recognize the inevitable role that foster and kinship families have in young people's lives, and honoring those lasting bonds with young people. It also encourages family reunification by ending parental right termination for unpaid child support while a child is in custody, supporting families rather than penalizing them for their financial struggles, which is super important. Because kids don't think about the financial, they think about the bond and their connection with their family. So we don't want to penalize the child while trying to penalize the parent. Also, resolving DSS conflicts of interest by transferring cases to another county for fairness, which I'm sure a lot of young people would appreciate when thinking about supporting their families. Enhancing abuse and neglect report reviews with optional state DSS secondary reviews, and then improving the permanency plan review for process for foster fostering more stable placements. Again, as a young person that was in the foster care system, I really golden sticker all of these things because these are things that definitely would have been supportive while I was in foster care. And I know for the young people that we serve now and the young people I work with now, this would definitely be supportive. Again, I want people to think about how important it is to be, if you are going to be in a system, that the system needs to work for you. The system needs to work for you so that you can transition out of that system and actually have a full life, and that you're not just sitting there, you know, a victim of a circumstance that you didn't even put yourself in. Again, thank you. My name is Marcella Middleton, and I'll pass it back to you.
All right, next up, we are going to have Miss Gail Osborne.
Good morning, and thank you to each of you for sponsoring this bill. This is the highlight of the last 15 years of my life. This is everything that as a foster parent I have stood and begged for changes. I want to be able to call the state and say, this is not right, what's going on? And prior to this bill, what we're looking at is, I can have a conversation, but I can't force them to change. I can't make a county make a different decision. And I can tell you right now, instead of being a mom to 6, I would be a mom to 7 if a county would have been able, if the state would have been able to step in and intervene in a situation that was in my home. My heart breaks every day for our first placement, and there's nothing that I can do about it now, but we can change this moving forward. Got on the road this morning at 3:45, brought one of my young gentlemen that live in our house, and you know, I'm coming to stand before you to say that 30% of the current foster families say they would not recommend fostering to their neighbor or to their church member. But you know what our #1 recruitment tool is? That word of mouth. And so we have to change the narrative that's sitting right with us as foster parents, and we have to do this by everything that you've heard today. These are all the things that we are struggling with, that we get complaints about, that we get calls of sobbing parents begging for changes. And those tears come with wanting to do what's right for the children. So the other thing I want to mention, and I would not be doing my job if I didn't, is that we are volunteers. We come to this table and we get a stipend every month, but we are volunteers. And I can tell you, without a doubt, this is the hardest job I have ever done in my entire life. And it's one of those things that I will wake up tomorrow and I will continue doing, and I can't imagine not doing it. But I need families to come along beside of us to do this. We've lost right at 40% of our parents prior to COVID. And that is something that we have to really target. These interventions, these things that are in this bill are going to help with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Marcella, I forgot to say thank you to you. Thank you so much. It's important to set expectations. We've done a lot of work. There's still a lot that needs to be done. This is not a silver bullet. This is not something that we're going to fix overnight, but it's incredibly important. I hope that you guys see just the love and devotion that has been poured into this. Just the people who are directly affected by it coming up and speaking. That's why we're here. That's why what we're fighting for. This work is incredibly important, and I want to thank you guys for coming out and thank you for all the support. And if there's anything that we can say, any questions you guys have, I'd be happy to take them. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, how will this encourage people to become foster parents? Can you explain that part of it?
So the focus of this isn't necessarily encouraging people to become foster parents. I think we dealt with some of that with the Loving Homes Act last year. This bill's focus is streamlining the process in trying to get the courts out of the way and the system out of the way, and from being a burden to foster parents, if you will, in some way. This is more focused on process than it is recruitment for this particular piece of legislation. I think one piece that's in there that foster parents are pretty excited about is the requirement, or I won't say requirement, the opportunity for them to be heard when a movement's going to occur if they've had the child for more than 12 consecutive months. I think at that point you've got a pretty good emotional bond being built with the child You know about intricate needs for the child, and therefore them being able to weigh in and have a voice in that decision is important to them. Yes, ma'am.
There was a report several years ago that talked about some weaknesses in the system overall, and one of them was that the local DSS offices don't pay as well as the bigger counties, and so you get a lot of turnover and a lot of inexperience and a lot of job vacancies in smaller counties. Does this bill address that at all? And if not, how does this bill compensate for that?
So I think the bill does address it, not directly. So the same argument can be said about school teachers, right? Where nothing prevents local governments from putting a stipend on top of what base salaries are. Those salaries are set locally anyway. So the argument that, you know, performance suffers because of salaries, I would push back slightly on that. Caseloads, things like that play a role. And I think that's where the higher level, the state review process that's implemented in this bill will be significant, is by the state being able to review caseloads and make recommendations, and then that puts the burden back on the county to address those. Yes, ma'am.
Kristen Severance with WIL. I know you've seen our foster care documentary, Broken. You know, in that we talk about 625 and how it did have bipartisan support, but you know, one of your colleagues is the reason it didn't pass. How are you making sure that that doesn't happen this time?
I'm not worried about a bill that didn't pass last session. I'm focused on making sure our bill passes this session. So we built a broad coalition of supporters on our side of the aisle. I think right now, just in co-sponsorships, we're close to having the votes to get it across the floor as it sits right now. And we haven't even really whipped votes for it yet. So I think that's the difference, is instead of it coming over to us and then being immediately assigned to a committee, now we're able to show the support that we have it to push it through our chamber first.
What do you think is the difference this time?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to be humble, but I'm saying I'm driving the train on this one, so, you know, let's hope that has an effect.
Hi, Grace with NCF News. How do y'all plan on addressing concerns at the local level about loss of power and control?
So those would be conversations that I'd be very much willing to have with local governments, because essentially they're only losing control if they're violating rules or breaking the law. So if that's the pushback that we want to get, I think we're standing on the right side of that issue.
Like, any concerns over local governments feeling like this is the big state government coming in and punishing them for stuff?
No. So all we're doing is what we do in any other way. I mean, the local governments, if we look at how these things are funded, they get state funding, they get federal funding, so to have guidance come down from both of those is a normal practice in government. And it's not heavy-handed in the fact that we're going to be dictating to them every aspect of what they do. But providing guidance, I think, is appropriate. Sir?
Yes, sir. Clifton Howell from The Insider. I'm curious, it's a pretty broad coalition here. I'm wondering if Representative Alston could speak to where the Democrats are at on this and what the...
You don't trust me to speak for the Democrats?
It's a bipartisan process. It's just interesting spread.
Well, I mean, clearly by my presence and sponsorship of the bill, I'm in support of the bill. And I look forward. We have a number of my colleagues in the House Democratic Caucus who've signed on as co-sponsors to this bill. I look forward to explaining the bill and educating my colleagues on it. I think once folks know about it and know that it's there and kind of know what it does, it'll continue to grow momentum. So I look forward to that process over the next days and weeks.
I was curious about how, you know, things like the Child and Family Specialty Plan, other stuff, a lot of this is Medicaid funding with, you know, potential cuts at the federal level.
You don't.
Yeah, what's the worry? Or is there any worry, you know, like what's the plan B, I guess?
I don't think there is a plan B at this point. Worrying about things that we just don't know enough about will do nothing but cause stress and anxiety. And so we're going to operate with the understanding that this is important to everyone at the state level, federal level. I think we've made a point to put our money where our mouth is at all levels. And so if it looks like it's going to become an issue, then I'll be the loudest cheerleader and proponent in maintaining the funding. But I don't see that as an issue right now.
One more. I noticed there's not a companion bill in the Senate. I'm wondering if you've worked with any senators. or
That's pretty
talked to them
astute of
about-
you.
About getting this through that chamber?
Yeah, they're awaiting this bill. So the conversation was there, and so most, I think, if not all, of the provisions in this bill have been worked on closely with the Senate as well. So this is, across both chambers, across both parties. This is something that everyone agrees needs to happen.
I have a question for Ms. Lisa of DHHS. So I know DHHS, has, like all state government has, limited capacity. How do y'all plan to take on these new responsibilities and, execute?
That is a great question, and just on Tuesday, we went through the bill and talked about how this would change our work, how we would change the workload. As always with state government, there are choices that you make and what people do and priorities. So we will prioritize the work, and we are looking at ways to build capacity to do this. If you think about that regional model, we are poised to have the 7 regional directors in place with a lead, and also have program leads that would be able to do some of the work that's in this bill.
Anything else?
Wanna do one more?
One more.
How does DSS feel about this at the state, and have y'all received any feedback from local DSS at this point?
Yeah, they were actually, I don't think they're here today, but they were actually involved in the stakeholder meetings that we had. They were listened to along the way, and when was the most recent? Last Tuesday? Yeah, so a week ago.
The state DSS?
We were all in the room together talking about this bill with hospitals, DSS, DHHS. I'm not going to say the LMNCO acronym, even though I just did. All these guys, when we say we brought everyone to the table to be part of the conversation all along the way, that is what we did. Anything else? All right. Well, thank you guys for coming out.